Thoughts on Help Ex-Muslim episode 13. Hello everyone, today I want to share some thoughts on Help Ex-Muslim episode 13. The episode covered several topics including predestination, free will, slavery, and concubinage. Before I begin, I want to make something clear. I'm not making this video because I enjoy criticizing Islam. I'm making it because I enjoy examining arguments. There was one argument in this episode that I found deeply unsatisfying. The topic was concubinage. To be honest, this is a topic I've avoided discussing for years. Not because I lacked opinions on it, but because it is one of those subjects that immediately triggers emotional and tribal reactions. However, after listening to this episode, I felt it was finally time to discuss it. What struck me most was not the conclusion reached by the hosts. It was that the discussion seemed to revolve around everything except what I consider the central question. So in this video, I want to focus on that question. Imagine a woman captured during war. She has lost her freedom. She may have been separated from her husband. She may have lost family members. She is now entirely dependent upon the people who defeated her community. Now suppose a victorious soldier is told that he may have sexual relations with this woman. For me, this immediately raises a simple question. Can meaningful consent exist under those conditions? Notice that I'm not yet talking about Islam, theology, or 7th century Arabia. I'm simply describing a situation. One person has power, another person does not. One person controls the other's freedom. Sexual access is permitted. To me, that relationship is inherently coercive. The hosts spent considerable time discussing slavery, but I kept returning to the woman herself. What was it like to be her? What was she experiencing? What choices did she actually have? Because, in my view, morality begins there. The host offered several defenses. They argued that slavery already existed. They argued that Islam improved slavery. They argued that captives were treated better than before. They argued that Islam encouraged the freeing of slaves. Even if I grant every single one of those points, my objection would remain unchanged. Why? Because none of those arguments address the central issue. Suppose slavery already existed. How does that answer the question? Suppose Islam improved slavery. How does that answer the question? Suppose captives were fed, clothed, and treated kindly. How does that answer the question? The question remains exactly the same. Can a captured woman meaningfully consent to sex with her captor? To me, these responses feel like answering a different question entirely. My concern is not whether the institution was improved. My concern is whether the institution itself was morally justified. As I reflected on the episode, I realized that the disagreement is much deeper than slavery. The disagreement is actually about morality itself. Many religious believers operate from a framework that says, if God commands something, it is moral. I do not see morality that way. Even if God existed, I would still judge actions according to their effects on conscious beings. A captive woman experiences fear. She experiences grief. She experiences loss. She experiences coercion. These experiences are real, regardless of what century she lives in. Human beings have not fundamentally changed. Pain is still pain. Fear is still fear. Humiliation is still humiliation. This is why I believe morality is discovered rather than invented. People once believed slavery was acceptable. That does not mean slavery became wrong later. It means people gradually recognized something that was already true. Just as gravity existed before Newton described it, moral facts can exist before people understand them. Ultimately, what bothered me about this discussion was that it focused on systems rather than individuals. I kept hearing discussions about economics, history, law, tradition, and war, but I kept returning to one person, the woman. What was it like to be her? What was she feeling? What had she lost? For me, those questions are where morality begins. Not with authority, not with tradition, not with culture, not with popularity, but with conscious individuals and the consequences of our actions upon them. That is why I reject concubinage, and that is one of the reasons I reject the idea that morality depends on religion. Because if morality is objective, then it remains objective regardless of what any scripture, prophet, king, tribe, or society says.